to United We Stand podcast, Andy Mitten. Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Another defeat for Manchester United. What's going on?
Well, the team are playing badly. Results are bad. 15th in the table now. That's 12 Premier League defeats so far this season. After almost every league game, we see a number of statistics, almost all of them negative. A lot of them go back to either the relegation season of 73-74 or 89-90. I've not seen Manchester United this low since 89-90, and that was at a time when a man called Alex Ferguson was under serious pressure, when a lot of fans wanted him to lose his job. He managed to turn it around. Can Ruben Amorim? Nobody knows the answer to that. He's certainly got a lot of support internally within the club and from Manchester United fans as well. Games, I think they admire his honesty. I think they knew that he'd taken an extremely difficult job, and he probably knew that himself. But I don't think fans felt it would be quite so bad. That said, every game is full. The team took 4,000 fans to Bucharest a few weeks ago for the Europa League. But these are very, very challenging times for Manchester United, for the fans, for the players. And yeah, I'm sorry I'm not more upbeat. I'm just telling you exactly how I feel.
No, that's what we want. We want you to tell us exactly how you feel. Understanding, it must be very frustrating, as well as a number of defeats being a concern. If you look at the issue of the lack of goals, that continues to be a worry as well. And then the fact that Ahmed is now going to be out for the rest of the season. How do they resolve that issue?
Unfortunately, there's no obvious answer. Ruben Amorim has said continuously that he wanted weeks where he could have no game, where he could have his players, and he's had that for the last couple of weeks. So an upturn was expected. Instead, we've seen serious injuries, and it's really worrying. To Kobbie Mainoo, to Ahmad. Ahmad has been just about the brightest player for Manchester United this season. There's a real paucity of goals up front. It is another blow to that. The team is shorn of attacking options. You saw the bench yesterday with very talented young players, better by injuries than almost every team in the league this season. But their league position is horrendous for them. Their fans are protesting, and they've beaten Manchester United 3 times this season. That's how bad Manchester United are. Now, fans still support the manager because he's new, because in the best case scenario, patience will be required. He will need 3 or 4 transfer windows. But it's the same old story. We've seen this film so many times before with the previous 4 managers. And a lot has been spent on players. A lot has been wasted on players. And there are deeper issues, which is why you see fans protesting against the Glazers, for example. That's going back 20 years now. And if you just put all of these ingredients into the pot that Manchester United is, it should be so much better than it is. The team shouldn't be 15th in the league. A lot of them players are top internationals. And yes, last season, there were a lot of injuries for Erik ten Hag. And there has been some bright spots as well. I saw Tottenham fans complaining yesterday, with good reason. They've won 1 trophy in 24 years. If you look what Manchester United have won in the post-Ferguson era, that would still be very good for a lot of clubs. But expectations are high, and it's not unrealistic for expectations to be high. It's one of the 3 biggest football clubs in the world.
And you briefly mentioned United's bench, and we actually touched on it before coming to you. Yesterday, there were...
These players need protecting. These players need introducing in the right environment, and maybe needs must. So if you look at how several of the best Manchester United players had their chances, it was because of injuries. Remember Marcus Rashford, when he was introduced by Louis van Gaal, it was because of injuries. And sometimes this can happen in football, that the young players, they're fearless, they don't feel the pressure. But I speak to people within the club, and nobody says to me, yeah, this guy is ready to play first-team football at the moment, because they're just not ready. If the injuries continue, then with no transfer window, then more of these players are going to get a chance. And they'll get huge support from Manchester United fans as well. There's a great legacy of young players coming through at the club and often saving the club in the darkest hour. The Busby Babes were decimated at Munich, but what got United out of real difficult times, it was young players, and the class of '92 famously as well. So there'll be a lot of support for young players, but it's a really difficult environment for them to be introduced to the first team.
Yeah, absolutely. Andy, as ever, when clubs are struggling, people talk about transfer windows, which you just mentioned, and squad overhauls. But when we look at the club's financial situation and now reports of more redundancies, how likely do you think it is that those changes will happen?
I think there will be changes, and we saw that in the last transfer window and the one before that, the summer one. And the jury's still out on a lot of the players. It's still quite young. Good people are losing the jobs. Working class people who are Manchester United fans are losing the jobs, and it's not their fault that the team have failed. And it's really sad, this. Equally, the workforce had become too big. It was geared towards a club reaching the latter stages of the Champions League 4 seasons out of 5, and Manchester United are so far from being in that position that cuts were needed. And I get the argument for that. Change is also needed for the footballers as well, and the manager will feel that he needs to be backed because he's got a very clear, defined system of how he wants to play, and he's going to die on this hill. He says it every single week. This is how we're going to play, and fans are like, okay, bring it on. But I speak to people at a very high level in football, on a technical side, on a coaching side, and they say things to me like, yeah, if this system works, brilliant, but you need very, very specific players for the system to work. Footballers with an incredibly high football intelligence, for example. Now, if that takes 3 or 4 transfer windows to bring through, so that you've got the manager, the coach, as we call him, with all of his players, then great, bring it on. But I said at the start of this interview, we've heard it all before. I've heard Louis van Gaal and Erik ten Hag and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer saying, I need 2 or 3 windows. And what tends to happen is after 2 years, the patience finally runs out and there is another change of manager. And there's been so many structural changes beyond the manager and his coaching staff. Cutbacks, there will be more cutbacks. The mood among staff is very, very low. I put this to Sir Jim Ratcliffe before Christmas, and he said not without reason, the team's winning, then the mood picks up, and that is true. But there has been seismic changes at Manchester United.
Ruben Amorim has claimed Man United need to be really careful with Christian Eriksen as the repercussions of his cardiac arrest in 2021 continue to impact his career. The midfielder, 33, fell to the ground and suffered an on-pitch cardiac arrest near the end of the first half during Denmark's Euro 2020 clash with Finland. While Eriksen recovered to play at the highest level for Brentford, and now United, there remain concerns as to how the Danish star continues his career. After missing out on United's recent trip to Tottenham due to illness, which saw them suffer a 1-0 defeat, Amorim opened up on Eriksen's situation. Amorim said, I think Lenny Yoro and Chris, they were sick. So they will recover. Of course Chris has the heart situation and we have to be really careful with that. It's nothing about the heart. I'm just saying the heart rate has to be controlled because he has a fever. Ruben Amorim has claimed Man United need to be really careful with Christian Eriksen. Amorim opened up on the difficulties of managing Eriksen's health after his cardiac arrest. Eriksen has made just 13 appearances for United in the league campaign this season, starting just 7 of those and recording just 1 assist along the way. He became the first top-flight player to be fitted with an implantable cardioverter defibrillator, a device which reset the heart after a cardiac arrest after he collapsed on the pitch. Meanwhile, earlier in the season, United fullback Noussair Mazraoui suffered a health scare and underwent a heart procedure after complaining of palpitations. Club sources say there was no emergency situation and the minor corrective procedure for a relatively normal condition was a success. Eriksen and Yoro were just 2 of the United stars who were unable to feature in the match, with Lisandro Martinez, Luke Shaw, Mason Mount, Johnny Evans, Kobbie Mainoo, Manuel Ugarte, Toby Collier and Amad Diallo are all ruled out of action. As a result, Amorim bolstered his squad for the trip to North London by calling up as many as 7 teenagers from the United Academy. Midfielders Seko Kone and Jack Morehouse, both 19, Ellie Harrison, 18, left-back Harry Amas, 17, and striker Chido Obi, 17, midfielder Jack Fletcher, 17, and defender Tyler Fredrickson, 19, were all named on the bench for the Premier League clash. However, the Portuguese boss only called upon one of his starlets, Chido Obi, during the defeat to Spurs. Obi caught the attention of the media multiple times while playing youth football for former club Arsenal. He famously scored 10 goals for the Gunners U16 side in a 14-3 win over Liverpool in November 2023. He then hit 7 goals in April last year during a 9-0 win over Norwich at U18 level. United pulled off a huge coup by signing Obi in September, and he scored a hat-trick on his first start for his new club's U18 team in a 6-0 win over Nottingham Forest. He hit another hat-trick last week in a 5-1 win over Chelsea. Casemiro hands Man United a transfer headache as he reveals his stance on move away from Old Trafford amid big-money Saudi Arabia links. Manchester United star Casemiro has claimed that he wants to see out his contract at the club despite interest from Saudi Arabia. Casemiro, who joined from Real Madrid in 2022 in a deal-up Tojas, struggled for game time this season and has frequently found himself on the bench since Ruben Amorim's arrival. The Brazilian made his first start since December during their 1-0 defeat by Tottenham on Sunday, but struggled during the match as United were condemned to their 12th Premier League defeat of the season. But the 32-year-old has insisted that he feels that he has a lot of life yet amid rumors that he could be looking for an exit route in the summer window. In an interview with Spanish outlet AS, he said, "I have to keep doing what I'm doing, with a lot of respect and education. Of course I'd like to play more, of course. I don't know any player who doesn't want to play and help. Also, I'd like to help the club at this time. I approach things with respect for my teammates and the technical committee. And above all, I respect United, a club to which I'm very grateful. I have a year and a half left on my contract and I'd like to fulfill it here in Manchester. I'm comfortable here and so is my family. They've adapted, we speak English. I'm very grateful to the Old Trafford fans and to the club. I'm happy at club level. I'm young and I still have a lot of life left. I'm now 33 years old and in this era I'm 28 years old. Nutrition, physical preparation, everything lengthens a footballer's career if you take care of yourself. That's why Cristiano Ronaldo at 40 years old continues to score 50 goals a season. Last month, Mail Sport revealed that the Brazilian was attracting interest from Saudi Arabian clubs Al Nassr and Al Qadsiya. Al Ittihad were keen on the 32-year-old last summer, but most Saudi clubs have their full quota of foreign players now and needed to sell last month before they could bring in new recruits. It was understood that United would have been willing to sell the Brazilian, who is one of the club's highest deal at Old Trafford. Casemiro lives in Manchester with his wife Anna Mariana and their 2 children, daughter Sarah and son Caio. During the same interview, Casemiro reflected on rumors that former teammate Vinicius Jr. could also make a move to Saudi Arabia amid reports of a huge bid being prepared. Reports recently claimed the Madrid winger met with officials from the Saudi Pro League as they look to make the Real Madrid star their latest high-profile acquisition. He said, "If I were to speak to you as a fan, would tell you to look at how important it is to make history in football, in your career. You have already done so up to now, but at your age you have a long way to go to continue making it. But it is a very personal decision. As a fan, the nice thing is to continue watching you with Real Madrid."